Boy, this is good, actually.
You would think so. But yet it's been broken off a couple times.
It's been broken.
I'm going to ask everyone to start taking their seats, please. About 10%. 10% of breast cancer patients are men. He's still going through the regimen, now we're just watching this. But he's 90. I was down there 3 times this year. Okay, so we're going to do this right now. Right there.
So do we get Trump to say this is good? Do we get Trump to say this is good?
Well, he'll never say he's sorry.
Just, I'll be here for 4 hours. The judge will agree.
You know, you decide you wear that.
I can't do that.
She'll be here all week. Tip your server.
Good morning. On behalf of the family, I want to welcome you. I'm Cantor Laurel Barr, and I am sadly honored to be here with you to share in this memorial service. As you remember, a wonderful relative and a friend, and it's also always so heartwarming to see caregivers join us, those that really knew Millie so intimately in her last days, and her cared for her needs and her desires and took care of all of her wishes as she moved closer to her ultimate passing. We're trying to wait for one more second for Linda. Shall we just, okay, so we're just going to begin. Before we start, don't worry about the kids. It's all good. The family is going to receive friends today at Acacia Park Drive, 2202 Acacia Drive in Lyndhurst in the social room, just today till 5 p.m. I lift my voice when all is dark. Into God's hands I place my heart. Piado of Kiruchi, I'm not afraid, Adonai li. I lift my eyes when all is night. When I need help, I seek God's light. Lo echsar Adonai roi, I'm not afraid, Adonai li. Biado of Kiruchi, I'm not afraid, Adonai li. O God, you have been our refuge in every generation. Before the mountains came into being, before you brought forth the earth and the world from eternity to eternity, you are God. As for us, you turn us to repentance and say, return, you mortals. The days of our years are 70, or by reason of strength, 80 years, or is in Millie's case, nearly 100 years. But 1,000 years in God's sight are but as yesterday, as when it is past, or as a watch in the night. Teach us, therefore, to number our days, that we may attain a heart of wisdom. And may your favor, O God, be upon us. Establish the work of our hands, that it may long endure. Death has taken our beloved Mildred Finger. Our friends grieve in their darkened world. In their silence there is lamentation. In their tears there is loneliness. Lost in their sorrow, may they find the presence of loving friends. Hear them, O God, and be with them. For Millie's love that united us in life, and which death cannot sever. For her companionship that we shared along life's path, and which continues through the tenderness of memory. For the gifts of her heart and her mind that brought us joy and happiness, and is now a precious remembrance. For all these and more, we give our thanks to God. The 23rd Psalm. Adonai roi lo echsar, binodeh shehi arbitzeni al mei menuchot yenahaleni, nafshi yeshovev yancheni, v'magle tzedek lema'an shemo. Gam ki elech בגץ על מוות, לא ירא רע כי אתה עמדי. שבתך ומשענתך, המה ינחמוני. תערוך לפני שולחן, נגד צורריי. דשנת ושמן ראשי, כוסי רוויה. אך טוב וחסר ירדפוני כל ימי חיי, ושבתי בבית אדוני לאורך ימים. God is my shepherd, I shall not want. God makes me lie down in green pastures and leads me beside the still waters and restores my soul. You lead me in right paths for the sake of your name. Even when I walk in the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You have set a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You have anointed my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of God forever. We learn from Ecclesiastes there is a season for everything, and a time for every experience under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to uproot what is planted, a time to tear down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to seek and a time to lose, a time to tear and a time to sow, a time to keep silence, and also a time to speak. These are the times when both are appropriate. Sometimes in our pain and in our mourning, we choose to sit in silence. We don't want to speak. We don't want to talk. And then there are times when we see a loved one, a friend, who wants to share a memory with us and remind us of the beauty of Millie's life and all that she gave. So both of these are appropriate. There are no rules. We know that it is extremely difficult to say that we know another person, for a person's character is much like an iceberg. Only a small portion is visible, exposed to other people. All the rest lies beneath the surface and is known only to God. Our rabbis convey this profound thought to us in teaching that every person has three names. One that her father and mother gave her. This is the one that is given at birth, registered on the birth certificate, entered on school records or citizenship papers, wherever a name is required. A second one, the name by which she is known to family, to friends, and to those who work with and for her. This is the name that she earns by her actions and through relations with others. The third name is the one by which God knows her. The name is the sum total of a person's life. It reflects not only the outward conduct, but the inner life. It deals with the relationships between a person's conscience and actions. It reflects the inner soul and the spiritual life of a person. We cannot say what God will call a person, nor can we truly change the name that a person was given by their parent. However, we can say a person's life affects our own, and the impressions that she has left on our hearts and on our lives. So today we recall with love the life of Mildred Finger. Surrounded by family and friends, Millie, who would have celebrated her 100th birthday next week, she lived a life like all of us, one filled with blessings and great joy, along with life's challenges and sorrows. Mildred, daughter of Norman and Gisela Gotterer, arrived in the United States from Czechoslovakia in 1922 at the age of 4. She, her mother, and her brothers came here with the promise and hope of a new and better life after the arrival of her father a short time prior to that. She and her late brothers Joel and David, along with the family, made their life here in Cleveland. Millie grew up around 105th Street and graduated from Glenville High School, where she excelled academically, honing her math skills and shaped a tenacious attitude that served her well as she grew into adulthood. Millie met her beloved husband, Sanford, the swinging clarinetist playing at a nightclub, who spied her in the audience. She was out with a date, a non-Jewish fellow at that. To which he asked, "What's a nice Jewish girl doing with a guy like that?" Needless to say, he won her over, and together they shared over 50 years of marriage, raising their 3 daughters, Carol, Lynn, and Susan of blessed memory. Millie, unlike the women of that era, had a career outside of the home as well. Perhaps from living through the Depression years, or just by her personality, she was a strong leader, as the office manager at Mervis Steel, working in payables and accounts receivables, as well as working in her husband's company, Academy Music. Millie always felt that there had times and attitudes that, if had been different growing up, she too would have been afforded a college education like her brothers. But she learned real life skills that she applied to her life, especially fiscal responsibility, which she transmitted to her children and her grandchildren, as well as social skills, good manners, and the art of thank you note writing. She was strong, she was graceful, and she was classy. She was confident and she was artistic. She had an eye for design, and she always spoke her mind. She was precise in all capacities, an excellent cook who was weight conscious her entire life. She was known to say, and I quote, "If I ever come back, I want to come back with a good metabolism." She loved playing bridge and mahjong, and she maintained a monthly club with all her cousins where they played cards and later on, as their numbers dwindled, to just meet for lunch. Millie was the grandmother to Nicole and to Robert, Jonathan and Liat, Abigail and Brian, Barak and Karen, Kimberly and Samun, Piper and Ian, and a great-grandmother to 13. She shared a very special relationship with her granddaughters, Nicole and Piper. Nicole recalled the time spent together, feeling like kindred spirits, a loving grandmother who loved her unconditionally and without judgment. When she was younger, they would get their nails done together, had dinner together every week, and always shared words of wisdom to live by. When Nicole became her personal driver after Millie gave up her car, she'd insist on being Nicole's GPS, telling her the directions to get to the store. Mind you, it was the very same store and the same place every week, but the directions had to be told out loud. They were more than grandmother and granddaughter. They were truly friends. Piper mentioned that her grandmother supported her and took great pride in all that she chose to do. They had a mutual admiration for one another, and though she lives in New York, they stayed close through weekly, hour-long phone calls and daily, brief morning check-ins. Millie was indeed known by many names: a daughter, sister, wife, mother, mother-in-law, aunt, cousin, Grammy, and friend. The last chapter of the story of her life is now complete, but the entries that she made into the living volumes of her family and her friends and all who knew her will continue to influence, to inspire, and to guide all of them in the years ahead. We say to her, Lechi l'shalom, now go in peace, Millie, for a life well lived. And now Piper is going to share some of her memories.
Sorry, Nathan, I need them. Millie missed the train. Millie missed the train. Millie missed the train, and now she's walking. When Grammy arrived at one of Grandpa's gigs, the band would shift into playing this or It Don't Mean a Thing If It Ain't Got That Swing, or another favorite song of Grammy's. He knew how to make her feel special. His eyes would light up when she would walk into a room, and he made her feel like a celebrity. He always said he loved seeing a beautiful woman in a hat, and when he met Grammy, she was wearing a hat, and she was beyond beautiful. Last evening, I was lucky enough to hear some stories about Gram as a mother of teenagers. I heard about trips downtown to go hat shopping and trying on all the hats to see which one worked. They all worked for Grammy, and boy, did she have a collection. There was a collection of straw hats that would be tied down with chiffon to keep all of her daughter's hair in place as they drove in their convertible as teenagers. She liked to see her girls in style, whether it be in coats or hats or driving with the top down in their turquoise car. Their friends were always welcome. The house was always open. They had no curfew. Nathan, did you hear that? They had no curfew. That means they could stay up as late as they wanted, no bedtime. She would keep the frozen pizzas available so that they could entertain their friends. One boy noticed the other food and asked, "How come everything in your house has saccharin in it?" Grammy was interested in beauty and very interested in maintaining her figure and her looks. Before bed, her nails were painted and her hair was scotch taped into place. For decades, she had weekly appointments with her hairstylist, Tommy. I can only imagine the conversations that went on there. When she had a friend, they were a lifetime investment. She hung out with a group from school that grew up together, vacationed together, had babies, and raised them together. She played Mahjong and bridge and had regular meetings with her cousin club, but I'm sure she won those games. She was very competitive. I remember the excitement that would occur at the kitchen table on Richmond over a game of bridge. My father and Graham could go at it. The screaming arguments were quick and efficient as there would be more hands to play. Nikki and I both remember her keen abilities at gin rummy and how often she won our 4 a.m. games. She was a night owl. If you needed to talk at 2 a.m., she was the one to call. She always wanted to win. She wanted to live to be 100, partly because she would be the first in the family to achieve this goal. At the end, sometimes she thought she had reached 102, even though she was 10 days short of the 100 goal. She had lifelong friends, but part of the problem with that is that they die first. She lost Belle and Grandpa and her daughter Sue. So many losses. But she didn't lose at life. Grammy would have some of her most important relationships in her last years. She developed a really important relationship with her great-grandson Nathan, experienced his sister Riley's ever-present smiles. She had a friend group in her caregivers. She would watch sports with Mary and old movies with Jean, who she insisted was named Saul. She had long legs Leslie leading her team of caring ladies. And she had Linda, who cared for everything and made her feel safe, and she knew what she needed before Grammy did. She was very lucky, and she knew that as well. Lifelong friends again. She has been my friend, a mentor, a supporter, and a fan. I adored her, and we loved each other. This was a learned love. When I was a kid, I would complain to my father about having to go and visit Grammy. I expressed that she was very mean. My dad would say, "Yeah, she can be. But you need to learn to love her, or at least respect her. She's your elder." So I learned. I learned in hours on the phone as a teenager, trips alone to Ohio, stories about her history. In later years, we spent 16 years of daily conversations where we would grow together, cry together, or just check in on our schedules. She was a mentor. She knew about aesthetics. She was really smart with money. She and her sister-in-law, Reba, owned a laundromat before women owned businesses. She ran the business side of Grandpa's band. She was a working mother before women made those choices. She was a mother. She raised 3 girls who raised 7 who are raising 13. She wanted her children to be independent and self-reliant. Her goal was reached. The 23 of us have that in common. She told me in one of our conversations that she didn't know what to believe about the end of life, but that wouldn't it be nice to see everyone again? I sure think that it would, Graham. I grew to love her, and it has been the greatest blessing of my life. As she has been declining, I've started to miss her. I miss her. I hope if she does get to see Grandpa, that he has a band ready for her. Millie missed the train, Millie missed the train, Millie missed the train, and now she's walking.
I know that you'll continue to share these stories, the memories. When we speak of our departed ones, when we mention their name, they are going to be having an elevation of their soul. Their neshama, their soul that is what made Millie Millie, has mostly left her body. And so each time we think of her, talk about her, share the stories about her, her soul will indeed reach closer and closer to the heavens. In the rising of the sun and in its going down, we will remember her. In the blowing of the wind and in the chill of winter, we will remember her. In the opening of buds and in the rebirth of spring, we will remember her. In the rustling of the leaves and in the beauty of autumn, we will remember her. In the beginning of the year and when it ends, we will remember her. When we are weary and in need of strength, we will remember her. When we are lost and sick at heart, we will remember her. And when we have joys that we wish to share, we will remember her. So long as we live, she too shall live, as we remember Millie. With Job we say, Adonai Natan, God, you have given. You gave us a loved one who will not be forgotten. For all that was good and enduring in her life, we offer the deepest thanks of our hearts. Adonai lakach, now God, you have taken away. We pray for the strength to turn our broken hearts into an altar of trust before which we acknowledge your sovereignty and your love. And we now say, Yehi Shem Adonai Mevorach, blessed be the name of God, now and forever. We ask all who are able to please rise. El male rachamim, shochen b'amromim, hametzeh menucha nechona, tachat kanfei השכינה, im kedoshim utehorim, kezohar harakia mazirim, et nishmat Saramindo bat Nachum shalcha le'olama. Bal rachamim yastireha beseter kenafav le'olamim. Vitzro bitzra chaim et nishmata Adonai hu nachalata v'tanuach B'shalom al mishkava v'nomar Amen. Compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to Mildred Finger, daughter of Norman and Gazella, who has entered eternity. O God of mercy, let her find refuge in your eternal presence, and let her soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is her inheritance. May she rest in peace, and let us all say, Amen. You may be seated. This concludes the service here at the chapel. We will continue at Mount Olive Cemetery for interment.